Welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is Selvakumar. I am an associate professor in the Department of Maritime History and Marine Archaeology at Tamil University, Tanjavur. In the previous module, we saw about excavations and various methods such as vertical excavation, trial excavation and strip trenches. This module is part of the paper Principles and Methods of Archaeology. This module deals with the horizontal excavation and excavation of towns and fortifications. Let us look into the learning objectives. Why we are going to discuss about this particular module. The purpose of this module is to understand the importance of horizontal excavation, to know about the excavations of towns and fortification, to comprehend the issues in the horizontal excavations. So, the purpose of this module is to explain various aspects of horizontal excavations, how the horizontal excavations are important in archaeology in comprehending the spatial use of ancient communities, how they used space for their various activities. Now, let us look into the introductory part of this particular module. Horizontal method is used for the excavation of large sites and settlements. In this method, the trenches are laid in the form of grid or boxes as laid at Archimedu by Mortimer Wheeler, or as open area trenches. This method is used in the excavation of fortification and towns. So, this method focuses on a large area, not just a small area like a trial trench or vertical excavation. Here, the focus is on a very large settlement. Sometimes the settlements may cover 10 hectares, sometimes more than 1 square kilometer. So, the focus is to understand the layout of the settlement in the entire area. Therefore, horizontal excavation concentrates on a large area so that the town planning and the layout and the fortification and various aspects of spatial use can be understood. The horizontal excavation may deal with the micro units of time. For example, the vertical components which may cover a few hundred years, unlike the vertical excavation that may cover the deposits of a few hundred years. The horizontal excavation may deal with much shorter duration. In some cases it may also deal with a few hundreds of years to few thousands of years. In the case of vertical excavation, it may even extend to say 5,000 years or even beyond. So, when compared to the vertical excavation, horizontal excavation focuses on a narrower time period. Horizontal excavations are closely related to the settlement pattern and landscape archaeology studies. Landscape archaeology studies generally focus on the overall landscape, how people distributed themselves over the landscape, how they arranged themselves, how they organized themselves on the landscape. Therefore, horizontal excavations are very important to understand the spatial use within a specific settlement. Horizontal excavation focuses on the spatial dimension of a site or settlement or culture. So, the focus is on different aspects of a particular community. Archaeological and historical research focus on two dimensions of human life, namely space and time. Space and time dimensions are very much interrelated and they are inseparable. They cannot exist without each other. Even though we are dealing with horizontal excavation, we obviously are looking into vertical excavation of even a very short period. What is the importance of horizontal excavation? The horizontal excavation focuses on the horizontal dimensions of an archaeological site. Understanding the towns and fortifications is the focus here. The importance of horizontal excavation is related to the settlement patterns. Settlement patterns mainly deal with the arrangement of architectural structures and settlements on the space, that is spatial patterning of human behavior. Space is very much inevitable in human life. We organize our house into bedroom, kitchen and reception. So therefore space is very much part of life. Even in our village or town, we have different spaces for different activities. So we use space in a number of ways. Some space is considered sacred. Therefore our aim is to understand how ancient people organized space and arranged the space, how they gave different meaning to the space. That is the focus here. Excavation of towns and fortifications. Excavation of towns and fortification is a complicated process. It is not a simple task. It requires detailed planning and organization. You need to organize because you are going to excavate a large area, and also it requires a lot of financial and trained human resources. Without such a team, you cannot excavate a site in a large scale. And also we need to have proper problem formulation. Why we are going to excavate the site? What are our objectives? And also we need to make elaborate arrangements for documentation. When you have hundreds of trenches excavated in a specific area, we need to have proper documentation. We need to store the antiquities or artifacts properly, and also we need to have facilities to retrieve the materials. That is why large scale horizontal excavations involve very complicated arrangement and very complicated organization. Now let us look into the research problem and the settlement patterns and landscape archaeology. As already we saw, the horizontal excavation is very intimately related to settlement patterns and landscape archaeology. Settlement patterns are the result of cultural activities undertaken by a group of people on the natural landscape in a specific time context. According to Bruce Trigger, settlement patterns of a culture can be conceived at three levels: individual building, community pattern and zonal pattern. These settlement patterns are influenced by cultural and environmental factors of different intensity and kind. Horizontal excavations are useful for understanding the individual buildings and the community pattern in a particular site. So let's look how we arrange space. In a small house or a residential structure, people live and they undertake various activities. Then they build different buildings, different common areas at one level. Then these houses or individual structures or commercial structures are arranged in a particular village or an urban center. Then we have a community pattern and people arrange themselves over a different area. They have sacred space, they have various other functions. At a meta level, we have lot of settlements like small villages, big villages, urban centers, like we have a place called Delhi, which is very huge. Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Chennai and Hyderabad, Bangalore as metropolitan centers. If you move away, you may find a small district headquarters like Guntur or Tanjavur. If you move further away, you find a smaller village, and then you see the houses in these settlements are arranged in a different pattern. Similarly, people in the ancient time had conceived space differently. So that is what we are trying to understand by excavating a site horizontally. That is what presented by Trigger when he says we have to look at the individual structure and the community pattern at a broader level, and much at higher level the settlement pattern. When we look at the settlement pattern at a broader level, we undertake surface survey, about which you have already seen some of the modules. Now we are focusing the community organization at individual structures at another level over a particular settlement. That is what horizontal excavation is about. Now, why this research problem? Research problem is very important so that we can understand why we are excavating a site and collect the data according to that. If we don't have a research problem, we will not be collecting all kind of data. That is why before undertaking an excavation, it is important to sit and list what are the research problems, what kind of data to be collected. Only then we will have proper data set which can be used for answering number of research questions. Research problem is an important component of horizontal excavation. Spatial organization and use of space can be understood by formulating proper research problems. Type of houses and other structures and what were their functions in a particular settlement. These are also important research problem. Layout of the settlements, how the houses were arranged, whether the pattern was in 2 rows or in a very complicated system, and how these structures were arranged. Identification of activity areas and the function of various structures, how the people had arranged their activities within the site. What was the function of a particular site? When we have certain sites, they might have been used for specifically for processing raw material. Some sites are located along the coast specifically as a port. So the sites have specific function. Some sites are ritual centers. Therefore, our aim is to understand the function of a site. Several other research problems have also to be formulated after looking into the local regional archaeological data set. So again, the site functions and problems vary according to the context. If we are excavating a prehistoric site, we will be asking different set of questions. If we are excavating a protohistoric or later prehistoric site, we will be asking a different set of questions. If we are dealing with a historical sites, we will be dealing with a different set of questions. Therefore, the research problems vary according to the context of the sites. Now, let us look into the horizontal excavation that have been done in different parts of India. There are several sites that are available in India, and many of these sites have been excavated horizontally, and these sites have thrown a lot of information on the ancient cultural heritage of India and how people used space. Now, in the image you see the site of Dholavira, which is packed with lot of architecture and the space in between. This belonged to the civilization of Indus Valley, and you find more or less well planned towns and square rectangular buildings and proper streets and commercial centers and markets in these sites. This is an example of a very well laid out town. You also have evidence of proper drainage in these towns. So this helps us to understand how these people were very well organized. So therefore, horizontal excavation can help us to understand these minute details. Another important Harappan site recently excavated by Archaeological Survey of India is 4 MSR, as the locality is known as. It is a Harappan site near Binjore in Rajasthan. Here you can see they have used aerial photography at this site so that they could see the complete image of the landscape of the site as well as around. Such kind of documentation is very important so that we get a bird's eye view of the particular site. What you see in this picture is a typical example of a horizontal excavation in which they have left bog in between. It covers a large area. Once the site is excavated, you will get to know the spatial organization within this particular site. Balathal is another Chalcolithic site in Rajasthan. This was excavated by Deccan College. This was also excavated horizontally. They could identify a number of structures including fortification. This excavation is also very important to understand the spatial organization of the Chalcolithic people. By excavating such in a horizontal scale, we could understand how these Chalcolithic people were organizing in this particular area. What you see in this particular image is the excavation at the Harappan site of Rocky Gadi. This site is in Haryana. This site has produced very interesting pattern of architectural remains. Again, this was possible only because of the horizontal excavation. What you see here is the site of Adichanallur. It is in southern part of Tamil Nadu. This site was excavated by Archaeological Survey of India. This was an Iron Age site, mainly burial site. They did not have much evidence for habitation sites around this site. Probably the site where people lived at this particular point of time in association with this site has not been found so far. But interestingly, they adopted a horizontal excavation method here and they excavated the site extensively. As a result of that, they could excavate urn burials in different layers at various contexts. If anybody adopts a different kind of method, we would not have come to know about the complex nature of urn burials. Here at this site, they found the urn burials in multiple levels, in multiple layers, suggesting that this site was used for a long period of time. So this clearly proves that in some contexts, even for the megalithic burial site, we can adopt a grid pattern or horizontal excavation. So by adopting the horizontal excavation method, we can understand the space in between the burials also, how these people were using this space. They might have used this space in between the burials for camping and also for various other purposes. This image again is from Adichanallur. Here you can see various burials within the small areas. Numerous urns are found within a very small area. So this is the advantage of horizontal excavation. It can expose the complete picture. This is the image from the site of Kiradi, an early historic site near Madurai that has produced interesting architectural remains datable around the early centuries of the Common Era. Here what you see is a horizontal excavation, and then at one part where there are no architectural remains, they have dug deeper and they have uncovered a ring well. So therefore we have to use both horizontal and vertical excavation methods in some contexts to better expose the various cultural period. So this is very clear that horizontal and vertical excavation methods, they are complementary to each other. We should not be seeing them as opposing methods. So we have to use them judiciously to expose the ancient cultural remains. This is the grid pattern from the site of Arikamedu that was used by Mortimer Wheeler. Interestingly, in between the grids, he has also left a ramp for the workers to move up and down so that they can go up without destroying the section. Here this is the site where Mortimer Wheeler first experimented this grid pattern excavation. Individual structure. Now we will come to the classification of Bruce Trigger, who says that we have to study the settlement pattern at the individual structure level, next at community level. So the horizontal excavation offers an opportunity to understand these two patterns, especially at the individual structure, next at the community level. Individual architectural units consist of residential, funerary and various other functional structures, activity areas and features. They could be anything. It could be a hearth or an oven or any kind of pit dug by the people. That is called individual structure or individual feature. Sometimes it could be a monument, it could be a house, it could be a bathing ghat, or it could be a tank. Anything, any kind of individual component is called as a basic unit of a settlement. A settlement may have a house, a settlement may have a bathroom or common tank. These are all called as individual features or structures in archaeological context. The purpose of excavation is to understand the plan of individual houses, how the houses were planned, how they were designed, were they circular, were they square, were they rectangular. So the purpose is to understand the individual features, how many types of structures are found within a particular settlement. And also the aim is to understand the function, why they were used and what for they were using these particular structures or individual features. A large settlement may have number of facilities like tanks, storage facility, houses, bathing area, streets and number of other features. The purpose of the excavation is not only focus on architecture or houses, the entire spatial use, even the place where they have dumped their garbage, even the street or the narrow lanes, everything is the focus of horizontal excavation. Now what you see in this image is a prehistoric activity area, a prehistoric site. This was excavated by Professor Padaya of Deccan College, and this site name is Isampur in Karnataka. This is a very interesting site where they have found evidence of Acheulean people in the Paleolithic. Here you find evidence of these prehistoric people making tools. All these materials are found spread over a large area. Here this data is very meticulously documented. All the stones were collected, and then an analysis is done to understand the behavior of these prehistoric human ancestor. So the prehistoric sites demand a different kind of approach and a very slow and different kind of approach to the stratigraphy, different kind of technique and method, where one has to do extremely carefully and meticulously collect the evidence. This is another trench from the excavation of Professor Shanti Pappu, and this site is Athirambakam. Here she has done very meticulous excavation to recover all kinds of activity areas and within this particular site. So therefore horizontal excavation in a prehistoric site would demand a different kind of strategy and a different kind of documentation. And this is another close-up of the site of Isampur, where you can see a number of tools and other artifacts in situ. And here these prehistoric people were knapping stones and making stone tools, and they have left them in situ. And this site probably was disturbed by various natural and cultural factors, and when we excavate this particular site, you find many of these evidences in a sense in situ, and some of them probably had moved because of the various natural features. When we excavate a prehistoric site, we need to take this also into consideration, that sometime natural forces move the artifacts from one area to another area. That will be dealt with under site formation processes. And this is another feature from the site of Pattanam. Here you see a rouletted ware, a plate nearby a huge laterite type of rock. These kind of features are called features or a kind of individual unit that is excavated and documented. So after seeing this kind of features documenting, we have to deduce what kind of activities would have resulted in such an individual feature or other kind of material evidences. Here what you see is a wharf of early historic period, datable to 1st century BC or CE. Here you have an artificially built wharf and a canoe made of single log of wood. This is another important individual feature. The people who lived at the site of Pattanam in Kerala in the early historic period, they had made a wharf for the landing of various boats from the coastal region as well as from the backwaters. So people construct these kind of various functional features within the site. So when you excavate horizontally, you come across all these kinds of functional features, structures and everything in a site. So that is the purpose of this horizontal excavation. Here in this particular image, what you see is a structure at Pattanam, a historic site. This structure was found very close to the wharf area. We do not know the function of this particular structure. They might have used it for storage purposes. One of the problem in archaeology, especially in historical archaeology, is to identify the function of a particular structure. We hardly get sometime any kind of proper evidence to identify. Therefore, we call certain structures are warehouses, certain structures are residential houses based on the available evidences. But we cannot completely assure that these people were using a particular structure for a specific purpose unless there is very clear evidence. Here you see another brick structure, and it may have been used as a residence or for some industrial activities. This is again from the site of Pattanam. We don't know again its exact function or purpose. This is from the site of Kiradi. Here you have something like a tank. We do not know for what purpose they used this. The assumption is probably they were producing cloths or textile in this particular site, and they were using these tanks for coloring, for dyeing the clothes. Again, this is only an assumption, we don't have any direct evidence for this. Here we have a double burial from the site of Lothal, and this is a Harappan site. This is another very important evidence. So this is again, a burial can also be called as an individual feature or a structural unit. So these kind of activity areas and various features can be identified through the horizontal excavation. Next we come to community pattern. Community pattern basically deals with how houses or residential structures or other commercial structure or various other structures are arranged in a particular community. In the case of prehistoric sites, normally we would expect activity areas in which people napped to produce tools and artifacts. Other than that, we may not find many of the activity areas in the prehistoric context. In most of the prehistoric sites, we find only their activity areas where they most probably they would have made stone tools, or we understand that they made stone tools. They might have done other activities also, but we may not find any direct evidence since the perishable materials are gone. Based on the available lithic evidence, we say they were working on stones, but we cannot completely reconstruct what were the activities that these people were undertaking at these particular sites. In the context of late prehistoric and historical sites, residential structures could be expected. In addition, in the community pattern, apart from residential structures, we can also get a number of other structures. This particular illustration is from the site of Inamgon. Here we can see the houses arranged at a particular time context. You get square as well as rectangular structures here. So this is what community pattern is, how people build their houses, in what shapes they are, and how they are arranged in a particular pattern. If you go to some of the villages in rural India, the houses will not be in a proper pattern like with the streets and houses in the two rows. Sometimes the houses are placed in a facade manner. In some areas, people adopt different pattern of houses in a row. So we have multiple patterns in which people construct house. In the same way, in the past also people were constructing houses in different pattern. It might have had some kind of significance. The purpose of horizontal excavation is to unearth the pattern, how the houses were arranged in a particular area. Here what you see in this picture is an hypothetical map or a community pattern in which you have square as well as circular houses arranged haphazardly. Probably in the Iron Age, also in the Neolithic, in some contexts people were building houses like this, and this also had some significant purpose for them. If you look at the Neolithic settlements in southern India, in the central place they had the cattle pen. They kept the cattle and people were living all around. In a way, they were protecting their cattle resource. In some of the villages, houses are arranged such a way in order to give lot of security. But if you come to the early historic, or even in the case of Harappan towns, houses are arranged in a different pattern. You get the grid kind of pattern with streets and lanes meeting in right angles in a very typical what is known as urban context. So some context people were using these kind of plans in certain location. So therefore the plan of a particular site or a settlement is depending upon the nature of activities and their cultural understanding and the cognition of the group that are living in a particular area. If you take the case of commercial or urban centers, you have people meeting face to face, buying and selling goods. So this would demand you meeting your customer in front of you. Probably in such context, people were building these kind of row houses with street in between. This could be one of the explanation, but it is not necessary that this was the particular reason for building these kind of square or rectangular pattern houses or residential structures or other commercial structures. Layout of the towns. Layout of the town is also very important. In some towns were laid out properly with their moat and then fortification. In some towns were there without any such moat or they were open. So you find lot of varieties. Some of the villages they had just wooden fortification. Harappan sites are the best examples for such large scale horizontal excavations. The Harappan towns have citadels and lower town and various activity areas, clearly suggesting the Harappan people had a specific concept of space and they had demarcated certain areas for certain purpose. In some site they have identified certain structures as workers' quarters. In some areas workshops were located. So clearly we can say that Harappans were a very well organized people in terms of their approach to space. In the large scale excavation, we also come across the streets, buildings, public areas and community areas. That is the advantage of the horizontal excavation. Here in this particular map you see the town layout of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. You can see that how big these towns were and how people were organized with a citadel and an enclosed area and the lower town. Here this is another reconstruction of the town of Lothal. This was excavated by Archaeological Survey of India. Here they have identified a structure as a wharf structure, and this town plan also is very interesting. And some of the structures have been identified as in the citadel area. This is another important Harappan site with a lot of interesting evidence. What you see here is the site of Dholavira. Here you can notice the proper streets and the structures on the both ends, suggesting that proper plan these people had in arranging their structure and using the space in this particular settlement. This is another map of Dholavira. This pattern is also very interesting. These people were living in the citadel area and they had typical mechanism for gathering rainwater. Dholavira is very famous for the rainwater harvesting, especially in this area. Even today we get rainwater is so precious. So these people were gathering the rainwater and using it for the various purposes. So this is brought out by this horizontal excavation. Therefore, our focus should be not only on the structures or building, but also various facilities like water harvesting and the area around the site, how these people were camping around, how they were using the land for cultivation activities and various. Therefore, when we undertake horizontal excavation in a town, we should not limit ourselves to a main town or a city. We should also explore the area around and maybe put one or two trial trenches to understand the relationship, whether we find any evidence for camps or any specific activities away from the main center. This is again the entrance gate of Dholavira town. This is also of very interesting type. Here you can see that these people have created a fortification and they had controlled the access to this particular town. So that is brought out by this horizontal excavation. Then coming to the layout of trenches, there are several methods. Several scholars have suggested different ways of laying out the trenches. According to one method, the site area is divided into 4 quadrants or 4 quarters, and then one quarter is numbered as the trenches are numbered as A1, A2, B1, P2. In other quarters, they make it as X, and the other quarter Y, and the third quarter as Z. This is one way of laying out the trenches, and it is not necessary that one has to adopt this particular way of laying out the trenches. Ideally, we should grid the entire site and then select certain quarters for excavation in the horizontal method. Another important method is open area method, in which they excavate a large area without leaving any bulk or section. Bulks or sections or wall-like features left in between in an excavated area. Suppose if you are excavating a 200 square meter area, you would sometime choose to excavate a trenches of 5 meter by 5 meter and leave the space in between. So the space in between left between the trenches are used for walking across and to observe the section. They are called bogs. In the open area method, they excavate the entire area as one unit without leaving any bulk or walls. So there are always debates which method is better, whether grid method or open area method. What are the advantages of these two methods that are used in horizontal excavations? Here let us look at Philip Barker's statement. He says that one of the greatest difficulties with horizontal excavation is to reconcile the need for a constant overall view of the excavated surfaces with the need for sections. When you are excavating a huge area, let's say 200 square meter, without leaving a bulk, you are very doubtful whether you are progressing properly, because you don't have anything to observe. What you have is your data sheets and the recording and the photography. Therefore, sometime you would want a bulk to be there when you are excavating a large area to re-observe the relationship between the various layers. So scholars are still debating whether we should have a bulk or we should not have. Some scholars in the world, they are excavating without leaving bulk. Some scholars are excavating by leaving bulk. Are bulks necessary? In the grid pattern excavations, too many bulks or walkways in between the trenches are left. Are they really necessary? One point of view argues that they are necessary for the control of excavation and stratigraphy. When you are excavating a large area, bulks are essential, some scholars feel. However, the open area excavation argues that it fragments the evidences and the architectural remains. When you are leaving too many bulks, you are losing, you are not collecting all the evidences simultaneously. It doesn't give you the holistic picture at a time. Advantage of bulks. What are the advantages of bulks? The bulks around the trench help the observation of stratigraphy and the relationship between various features. Suppose you have a building, you have a wall. If you leave a bulk, you can understand the relationship when this building was built and when it was abandoned. So these relationships could be understood. Sometime if you immediately excavate, you will not have time for second thought. Sometime you would want to observe these features again and again and debate before you come to a final conclusion. Therefore, bulks are very useful. They offer time to debate and discuss the ideas about the relationship between various features. They are useful for the movement across the area without disturbance, but it cannot be seen as a major advantage. Bulks, what are the disadvantages? Bulks also have disadvantages. They block the holistic picture of the area excavated. They may fragment the context and artifacts. They are artificial barriers that do not help us to visualize the ancient layout. They block the documentation and recording. Suppose if an activity area is found near the section of the trench, the bulk would block the observation of that particular feature. In such a situation, the bulk has to be excavated. There is no other way. Problems of grids and bulks. Several scholars have discussed, and Brown observes separate trenches have differing rates of progress so that the excavation does not remain in phase. So he says that if you are excavating a large area, there are different trenches, different people are excavating, they are progressing in different way, different speed, therefore we cannot observe them at the same time. And also he says that it obscures the evidence, and also the bulks may not be in the correct placing. There may be, these things may move and there could be some error in the laying out. And also there may be lack of coordination between different squares or grids or trenches that are excavated. And what are the problem of open area method? There's one group of scholars, they are also not happy with this open area method. According to Higginbotham, no constant reference to a full series of vertical sections exist in a open area method. The survey grid may have to be placed directly onto the excavated surface. So if you are doing some survey, you have to use the excavated surface for laying out the grid. That is again a disadvantage, you will be damaging something. The disposal of soil requires traffic across the excavated surface. If you have open trench, people have to walk through a particular phase, that can really create a track and disturb some of the sedimentary layers and would create a new feature. So there is an absence of clear divisions for supervision and control. When you are excavating a huge area, there is no control. Now let's look into the emic and etic perspectives. Archaeologists lay out artificial trenches. Ancient people did not have any trench, they have their houses. They were viewing these houses as residential structures or some other structures, but view them from the point of view of the trenches as a kind of glass. While trenches and bogs are constructs, they are constructs of archaeologists to aid proper excavation. The ancient people created and used a space from their own perspective. So we need to get into their own perspective, that is more important. So sometime we may use bog, we may not use bog. Our aim is proper documentation. So we have to balance the use of bog so that we get a better understanding of the past human behaviors. Preserving structure and excavating underneath. This is one of the problem in horizontal excavation. What happens if you are excavating a large area, you find a beautiful floor of a very early period. You wouldn't want to disturb or cut across. What should we do? This is one of the problems faced by excavators. When they are excavating a large structures, there is a lot of early material that are lying below. Again, there could be multiple phases of structures. Here we have to go for a compromise. Sometime we have to limit our excavation, or we should go for salvage. We should lift the structure, place it elsewhere. Nowadays, excavations, they do not end with the publication of reports. Public in many places, they demand museum. Therefore, when we excavate a site, we should also think of site museums. In that context, we wouldn't want to disturb or destroy a beautiful structure to go further beneath. Here, one has to decide according to the situation. And again, we encounter fortification in a particular site. Should we excavate the fortification completely? No one would excavate a fortification completely. In the case of fortification, we can excavate select areas to understand the phases in which the fortification was constructed, and also we need to correlate the settlement inside the fortification with the fortification wall. This is also very important. Only then we can understand the relation. In addition, we should also excavate the area that has moat and also beyond. As I said earlier, these areas are also very important. People were using, we should have this landscape or archaeology offsite in perspective, so that we understand the complete approach of the ancient people to their space and the landscape. Limits for horizontal excavation. What is the limit for excavation? Suppose if we have a site, can we completely excavate the site? It is impossible. I think we shouldn't completely excavate a site unless there is any other contingency or there is any pressing need. Some sites may be having a large area, and our excavation should limit only to certain areas depending upon our research problems. In future, we may have some advanced research methods. Using that, we may be able to reconstruct the past ways of life in a better manner. Therefore, our excavation or horizontal excavation should not cover the entire area. It should limit to certain areas according to the research problems. Now we will come to the summary. Horizontal method focuses on the spatial and temporal aspects of a site. It is ideally suitable and easier for single cultural sites. When we go for multicultural site, we have the dilemma of disturbing various cultural remains. Again, if you have an important site, we should adopt horizontal excavation even for multicultural site. In the case of multiple cultural site, the issue of damaging the structure of later period emerges. This is an issue we have to keep in mind. If intact structures have to be preserved for site museum, one has to sacrifice the evidence from the earlier period. GPR surveys or relocation of structural remains, as done in the site of Nagarjunakonda, could be undertaken in such cases. Ideally, the excavation method is decided upon the research objectives and the budget of the excavators. Different methods need to be adopted to suit the research problem. Combination of vertical and horizontal methods is necessary for getting a holistic picture. I hope that you understood whatever that has been presented so far. If you have any doubt or queries, please consult the e-text, and if you have more queries, please visit EPG Pathshala. Thank you.